Hey guys, it's Selwen here, and here we are again, time to choose our mains. This video was supposed to come out a bit earlier, but choosing a main in BFA has been extremely difficult for me. I'm sure some of you can relate, and this video is going to be about two things. One, the thought process that I go through in choosing my main and what steps you need to take to choose your own. And now with the pre-patch in place, I think this is a pretty good time to do this since we are all on the same page, for the most part. So let's just get something straight. Classes in general in BFA are less interesting in comparison to Legion. The losses in the transition are just too great, as you probably noticed in the pre-patch. Between the traits, Legos, tier sets, and even the GCD change has made 80% of the classes slower, not as interesting, deep, and sometimes even clunkier. Overall, the choices that you have on your character, the class development, and progression is severely handicapped, going from a place where you had a variety of traits and legendary effects to benefit or choose from, to a place where all of that is removed or baked in talent choices, where sometimes you have to give up something that you took for granted in Legion. A good example here would be the Fire Mage, as in BFA. If you want Phoenix Flames, you have to choose between that and Flame On, while in Legion you could just have both. So across some specs, you're gonna find those issues. Then you also have the problem where there's really nothing new to improve your character. Sure, there's the Azurite traits, and even though it has potential for more in the future, isn't really providing anything overly interesting at this point in time, but that's a topic for another video. All of that said, it's been quite difficult for me to choose a main, as most specs feel like a lesser version. Now the show must go on, so what steps did I take in choosing my main in BFA? Well, the first thing I decided was that I wanted to be a ranged DPS. I was a DK for the most part in Legion, switching between Frost and Unholy, and used Blood whenever necessary or for Mythic Plus, which I had a tremendous amount of fun with. In BFA, I feel like the DK is fine. Unholy is my favorite out of the bunch, since they got some pretty good changes, but again we go back to the thing where yes, we gain some things, but we also lose a lot. Frost is okay, but the global cooldown kills it for me. I just hate how it feels with the CDs on the GCD. And Blood, it's alright, it's slower for sure, and the way the stats work in BFA, it's not as appealing, although still quite fun for dungeons, but I'm not really looking to main a tank. In BFA, I also wanted a new challenge. I haven't mained a ranged DPS in a while, so that reduces my choices, making my decision easier. The first step is always choosing what role do you want to take. For me, as ranged DPS, I get the choice between the Warlock, Mage, Hunter, except for Survival, and then class specific specs like Balance, Elemental, and Shadow. So now I need to reduce my choice pool here. In your case, you might want to be a melee DPS or a tank or a healer, so you're gonna do the same, but for the respective classes and specs. I have a requirement as well, of which I want to have a functional of specs that I enjoy, so I can easily change if they happen to be better in different circumstances. In my case, I'm not looking for my main to tank or heal, so I just can go back to the pool of choices and remove Balance, Elemental, and Shadow. For you, that might not be important and you are fine with just one spec and you just stick with that to no ends, or instead you just want to have an off spec that isn't a DPS but instead be a tank or a healer that enables you to get Qs faster or whatever. So if that's something you're not willing to sacrifice, you would remove the Lock, the Mage, and Hunter from that list. And again, you would want to repeat this if you are choosing instead a melee DPS or a tank or even healer as a main. Just take these steps and put them in reverse. In my case, my choices got a lot slimmer. I'm down to the Lock, Mage, and hunter. What type of content you do can also heavily influence your decision. You could have placed this in a higher priority in terms of choosing your main, but in my case I mainly raid, I casually do Mythic Plus, mainly for the weekly cash. I don't really push very high keys, I don't really care about PvP, and in terms of solo play like world content or soloing old raids interests me and is something I regularly do, but it won't influence too much my decision. So this will vary on a player by player basis, something that you will have to decide and see by yourself. So I'm down to the lock, mage and hunter. Now this is the point where I start playing those specs, analyze and see if I can have some fun and enjoy myself there. Not thinking about numbers or anything like that. I know some people can play whatever as long as they have juicy numbers. I prefer fun over numbers. In your case, this may vary as well. So again, if that's what concerns you the most, your decision will be looking at locks and sims and just picking whatever is at the top. Looking at the classes, specifically Hunter, overall Hunter in BFA is more fun than in Legion. BM feels slightly more engaging and I can spend some time with it, but after long play sessions I get bored and it's not something that I would main. There's not much going on to keep me engaged, however that might be the complete opposite to you. Marksmen, slightly more interesting than BM and I do prefer it to the Legion version, quite relaxing to play, but again like BM I do get bored after a while. It doesn't have enough to keep me interested. Survival, it is better out of the bunch, mainly due to the wildfire infusion talent, which is never a good reason to main a class slash spec, because if that talent happens to be changed or nerfed, you will end up playing something that you don't really quite enjoy. Plus is a melee, so I will not be maining the hunter. Now the lock, it's a fantastic class in BFA overall. I truly enjoy every spec, from the more simple one that is Destruction, to the dot playstyle of Affliction, to the crazy awesome fun that is Demo. So if I do enjoy every spec and is a fully ranged DPS, is that gonna be my main? No, I just couldn't visualize myself playing it as my main. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is mobility. I came from a DK in Legion, which sometimes frustrated me simply because I couldn't do certain things during fights that I desperately wanted to do, such as far away soak mechanics or mechanics that require movement. I wanted to react to certain things, but the class really didn't allow me to. Part of that was decay, part of that was the fact that I was a melee, and there was ways to counter that both in the decay and the lock. But those little things is what puts me off. You can argue that you do have your sprint in terms of the lock and the portals, but the reaction time just isn't fast enough for me. So the Mage is where I ended up. Mage is one of the specs that does feel lesser than the Legion version, and with Lego effects and traits baked into talents, making us take weird decisions. Other traits that made certain spells more interesting are gone, so the class feels more bare bones. Despite this, it's still quite engaging to play. Like the lock, I do enjoy most of the specs. I really like fire and frost, so I can easily change depending on what's better for the fight, tier or content. Arcane I can tolerate, just boring right now, but hopefully we'll get some good changes in 8.1. In general, the Mage is what I can imagine myself doing on a range spec, with the tools to deal with mechanics in a more interesting way, to lengths other classes can't, primarily the Decay, which was my previous main, or the Lock, while still having some fun with its gameplay on trying to do ever better DPS and all of that good stuff. So yeah guys, that has been my thought process in choosing my main in BFA. Again, it's not perfect in comparison to when I did it in Legion, but taking everything in consideration, I think it will be fine. As for your choice, I gave you some pointers with taking those first basic steps to trim down your choices, and then when you get to a spot where you just have a handful of classes to choose from, you just start playing them or just look stuff up on which class or spec touches you in all the right places for what you want to do in the game. To help with your decision, you can always check out my ranged / class changes videos. There's timestamps in the descriptions if you just want to see a specific spec, or better yet, if you have the opportunity, just try out the class or spec that you're thinking of maining. That's the only true way you're gonna find what you truly enjoy. Just play it for a while, imagine yourself raiding or doing dungeons or whatever it is that you do, and then can you visualize yourself playing on it. You can also leave a comment down below if you have some difficulties, and maybe I or someone else viewing can help out trimming down your choices on some specs or classes. Alright, and don't worry, I will be playing all specs to make guides for you all anyway. So as always guys, thank you for watching, remember to like and subscribe to get more videos like this, and check out my Patreon if you wish to support the channel. As always, have a fantastic day everyone, and I'll see you all next time. See ya.